If you don't live in DC, you would think that, damn, DC is like he said, giving Baghdad or something, but it's not. It's not at all. Yes, we have issues like any other inner city.
Trump does not care about DC's safety. He cares about control. And what we know from history is that authoritarians always want to control the capital and the people in the capital city. It's because it's the fastest way to silence dissent and to accelerate their agenda.
Black people are more likely to be stopped, searched, questioned, arrested, and harmed in encounters with the law. When we add the presence of federal agents or the National Guard to daily life in these neighborhoods, the burden can multiply. Black Washingtonians have long recognized that community violence cannot be solved through state violence.
I used to do street outreach in the very parks Trump is targeting. People lived in these parks not because they wanted to, but because housing is too expensive and shelters are full or downright disgusting. These folks, like most homeless people in DC, are DC natives or have deep ties to the district. They are our neighbors.
I'm not sure if we need more cops, because a lot of these situations, a lot of kids and a lot of adults who are raising these children need mental health. They need to know how to conduct themselves in a civil society. And I know it might sound like I'm being a little maybe harsh, as if human beings don't know how to act like they're animals or something like that. But in all honesty, if you grow up in poverty and you grow up in a toxic environment, and sometimes, honestly, you just think that your toxic behavior becomes the norm. It's unfortunate because in America, we do not prioritize mental health at all. And I think that's probably one of the biggest problems that we have. It's not necessarily that they are just spawned to be horrible human beings. I think they don't know how to be productive human beings. If you grow up and a child is obese and you don't recognize that that child is obese, something is wrong with you. If your child can't speak barely, doesn't know their ABCs, and you let that linger on until they're 7, 8 years old, there is something wrong with you. If your child doesn't come home at an appropriate time and they're violent at the age of 10, 11, 12 years old, and you are not surveilling them, they do whatever they want, then something is wrong with you. If your child does not go to school, you can go to jail. But if your child takes a gun, shoots someone, you should be able to go to jail. If your child commits a crime, stays out past curfew, then you should get a ticket. Something should happen to you. Your child is a part of society. And if you are contributing to the detriment of society, then you should be punished for it. And that goes for kids shooting up schools or kids shooting up the homies. Wherever it is, wherever you reside, it should happen. Now, I think they should get a little grace. I understand, because a lot of people really don't necessarily know what they're doing, regardless of how many children that they have or their socioeconomic class. But regardless, whatever it is, in some way, I don't agree with this, but at the same time, something has to give. But if it gives, man, I hope that these young adults get the proper care that they need in these facilities and not just throw the book at them. Same thing with the homelessness. If you tell them just stop being homeless, they can't. And the same thing goes for some of these kids. Just stop being bad, they can't, because they don't know anything else but to be this way. And it's not a race thing. It's not even a class thing, because some kids, they just don't have home training, and they literally don't have home training. I just hope there's some other alternatives to help these young people, not just throw the book at them and just say, you're bad. There might be a multitude of mental problems that are not addressed in that community, in that family, or in that individual, and those things need to be taken more into consideration and taken serious. And with the penalties that a single mother cannot do it all by herself might incentivize a couple to stay, because they know that if your child goes out and causes chaos in a community, then you know that you are the one that's going to be reprimanded. You can't do it by yourself. It can unite the couple to stay together in a more positive and more family-oriented, stable situation and a sustainable situation, because now you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your family and not just a paycheck. It might not be as bad, but at the same time, it shouldn't happen at all. It also should not be ignored that mental health is a very, very, very serious thing, and we should prioritize it more than we do in society, rather than just solving it with criminality and jailing people. That might not necessarily be the remedy.
Let's bring in the chair of the DC Police Union, Gregory Pemberton, and he joins us this morning. Gregory, great to have you here. I guess my first question is, why do you support the president's takeover?
Ashley, thanks for having me.
Sure.
We completely agree with the president here that crime in the district is out of control and something needs to be done about it. This concept that crime is down is really an old trope. They're using statistics in a way that makes it appear that crime is going down, but our rank and file officers know that we're going call to call to call for armed carjacking, stabbings, robberies, shootings, homicides, and the crime isn't going anywhere. And so we welcome the assistance, and whether that's federal agents or the National Guard, we'll use it. We'll do whatever we can to get bad guys off the streets and try to keep citizens of the district safe. Our concern here is that this is a temporary measure. This is only going to last for 30 days, and then the feds and the National Guard will be on their way, and we'll be left holding the bag. Our agency right now is an authorized strength of 4,000 sworn officers, and we're currently sitting at 3,180 with more than 800 vacancies for the position of sworn police officer. And that's the main reason why we can't keep these streets safe. The department relies on 2 million hours of overtime every year to try to close this gap. So the underlying issues of the laws that have been passed by the DC Council, we hope that this 30 days gives some insight into from the feds to see exactly how terrible these laws are and how they've destroyed the police department, so that we can work to get those things corrected.
You know, DC Police Commander Michael Pulliam is under investigation for allegedly changing crime statistics to make it appear that violent crime has fallen considerably. So I guess the question is, has crime fallen or not? And based on what you just told us, if there's a crime has not fallen.
I don't think so. And that's a very interesting aspect of the story that doesn't seem to be reported, is that they have a command staff official who's alleged to have been going into police databases and changing felonies to misdemeanors to try to keep these crime numbers down. Listen, I know Commander Pulliam, and he's a stand-up guy. What I suspect is that this is a pattern of practice, and this is something that's been ordered from the top to make sure the commanders are managing the crime stats to make it appear the crime is lower than it is, which is a disservice to the city, it's a disservice to the officers, and above all, it's a disservice to the victims of these crimes when we're not taking the proper police reports and investigating them and advocating for those proper resources.
So many people have been calling me over the past couple of days going, you know, Washington should have gotten involved years ago. This place is dangerous. It's a mess. It's a wreck and whatever. And then they'll go on Twitter, this is the worst outrage of all time, the shocking, which I understand. It's like people need to express their concerns about Donald Trump going too far. We saw what happened back in 2020 with the National Guard. Certainly can't have any repeat of that. Don't want the federalization of the entire city. But man, I don't care what the crime statistics say. Crime has been a problem in this city for the 32 years I've been living inside and outside of the city. It's just, you know, even now, Meek and I, we're talking to somebody who lives in the city. These are all Democrats who said, you know, our friends won't walk more than 3 blocks in D.C. at night without feeling. Man, it's door to door. I mean, I get one of those bikes, you know me. I love riding the bikes around. I'll ride around and I go door to door. I don't slow down. It's very dangerous there. Glad the crime rates are going down, but there is no sense of security for people who've been living in that city for 30 years. And again, my beef going back to my days in Congress always was, well, why isn't Congress doing more? They're really letting the nation's capital be guided by the lunacy of Marion Barry and some people on the city council that have some crazy ideas about stopping the police from doing their jobs. But it's the nation's capital. So I think Congress and the president should have stepped in 30 years ago. I will just go back to the fact that, the people that are cheering this on privately are not like right-wing Republicans, are not MAGA people. A lot of our friends are in the media, and also Democrats that worked on Joe Biden's campaign, that worked on other campaigns, that are saying, yeah, I'd like to feel safe walking around this city. If the federal government can be a positive partner in keeping the streets safe, while again, forming a partnership with the DC police and not taking over, at least the people I've spoken with that live in DC day in, day out, see this as a positive step.
Great deal of discussion about crime in the district. And the other day, I wanted to get a sense of what is actually happening in the District of Columbia. I asked for the number of teens who have been shot and killed by gunfire. Teens, everyone under the age of 20. As you can see, in 2024, we have 29 individuals who were shot and killed in the district, all teens, some as young as 3 years of age because of gunfire. Some of these cases are solved, some of them are not solved. But what this makes clear to me is that there is a whole community that is suffering because of the violent crime in this district. And anyone who wants to tell me the crime is down and that we don't need an emergency focus on crimes of violence, all they need to do is take a look at this and talk to the loved ones and the family members of these individuals, all shot and killed long before their time.
It just feels like a microscope is now on like Black people. And listening to the press conference on my way over here, every city that he named, Chicago, Oakland, Baltimore, which by the way, Baltimore's crime is down 50%. All of them are Black cities. So it just feels not only like a target on DC's back, but also mine as a Black man in DC. It's just, it doesn't feel like home anymore. I was just texting my mom and my girlfriend like, yo, I think it may be time to like move out of DC because for one, I'm not wanted, and two, it's not safe. And I kind of was left speechless because it's just, this isn't home anymore. It doesn't feel like home anymore.
Donald Trump, Rev, says he's actually making Washington, D.C. safer. Is that what's happening?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump was sat in the White House several hours during January 6th while his followers were beating police officers, Capitol Police, and others, and never picked up the phone or picked up his Twitter and told them to stop. So you've got to deal with his record. His record is that if people are violent and disobey the law and assault law enforcement and are supportive of him, that's fine. But on some others that he claims out of control, because the data says that crime and violent crime has gone down in Washington, he's going to send out the National Guard. Well, why didn't he send it out January 6th? So this is clear politics. It's aimed at Black mayors. It's aimed at also trying to take the Epstein case and the files off the front page. And it's drama that is at the expense of people. And it's sad. We're going to end up with stop and frisk in D.C. He will take it to other cities while they, at the same time, try to rob people of their proper districts according to the census in Texas, and will do it other places.
I don't think more police make streets safer.
No, Joe, I'm a Black woman in America. I do not always think that more police make streets safer. When you walk down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe. So what is it about talking about places like Southeast DC, right? Ward 8, if you will, that people say, well, we need more officers to make us safe. I think we have to rethink what safety means in America.
Well, there have been Black city council members in New York City. The people we represent are the people who need police officers the most, as safety officers in schools need police officers the most, so our children can walk from their homes to school without being stopped, 5-10 times drug dealers or people that are going to assault them. I don't think this is an issue of black versus white. When you're talking about safety, there are a lot of Black Americans who don't feel safe in their homes, in their neighborhoods. And when they hear people talking about defunding the police, it freaks them out. I'm not saying
I agree. Defund the police is not good. I never supported defund. I think you're making a good point, Joe. I want to be able to call the police in my neighborhood. When they come, I don't want them to think that I'm a suspect. But what we're talking about is that the president of the United States is saying that there is a crime emergency in Washington, D.C. An emergency could be anything that he says it is. So from his definition, maybe there is. The data would say otherwise. But the issue that people keep citing is about the young people, the carjackings, right? The kids running into a CVS and like taking things out the CVS. That is juvenile crime. And so how are the police officers or the National Guard going to address the issue of juvenile crime? And until we start talking about the policy, let's talk about the crime bill that DC passed last year that could be strengthened, right? Let's talk about that. But like, Donald Trump is using rhetoric and playing on the real fears that some people have because of what they've seen on the news or maybe what they themselves have experienced. And
it's not what they've seen on the news. It's not what they've seen on the news. So I'm going to read this to you. This comes from somebody you know. It comes from somebody who's been a Democrat their entire life. It comes from somebody who lives in D.C. and has seen violence all around. Again, even as crime drops. Now, sometimes those statistics, they're leading indicators of what's going to happen. I know in New York City, we kept hearing about crime dropping in 21, 22, 23. You started to feel it in 23. So who knows? Maybe these people will start to feel it in 23. But this lifelong Democrat who's very active in Democratic politics said, I know he's doing it for politics, but crime seems rampant. I've had too many friends of mine who've had their cars carjacked, shot at. None of us will walk more than 3 blocks after 8 p.m. 13-year-olds are committing many of these crimes. Quite the change from a decade ago when things were much calmer. I guarantee you that's a person that has never voted for a Republican in their life.
Yeah,
and will never vote for a Republican in their life.
But the person is making the point about juveniles. I go back to
juvenile. But hold on a second. You're saying that people are imagining this. And first of all, we will agree on something. You said you've never been for defunding the police. Exactly. I understand that. I will say right here, the real problem with this is that Donald Trump uses anything to declare an emergency and be able to move unilaterally. We can name 20 things he's done, and it is a dangerous precedent for him to set. Dangerous not only because of him, but because future presidents will follow this example if the Supreme Court doesn't stop it in its tracks. But all I'm saying is this isn't imagined. Like people that you know, that I know, that we love, they and their friends don't feel safe in Washington, D.C. And it's not because they see it on TV.
I think, Joe, that the opening line of that text is, it feels like X, Y, and Z. A feeling and the reality of the situation are two different things. But how someone perceives a situation does connect to their personal reality. And so I understand that there are people that feel like the city is out of control and it's under siege. I understand. I also know that I cannot knowingly sit here and say, as someone who lives in Washington, D.C., I live in the city. I don't live in the suburbs. I have lived all over the city. And I can tell you my experience is similar to David Drucker's. If I felt unsafe, if I thought it was as dangerous as everyone is saying it was, my husband and my stepson, we would not be living there. But is there crime in the city? Yeah. Is there crime all over the country? Yes. Is the answer to the issue of this crime, is the answer to what is happening as it relates to juvenile instances in the city, the National Guard and the FBI? I would say, as someone that did juvenile justice reform work since I was 19 years old, the answer is no.
Well, you can do two things at once. You can look at the underlying problems and you can address it in the way that you were talking about addressing it. You can also make sure that people, juveniles, can walk down the street safely. Other people can walk down the street safely.
Dude, I wasn't snitching.
The video shows the teenage suspect forcefully removing the Canada Goose coat from the rider who was wearing the red shirt. The suspect warns the man not to snitch, apparently not to tell anyone about the robbery. The man stands up, again saying he wasn't going to snitch, and then the suspect returns with his hand in his pocket as if he has a gun.
I'm sorry. I wasn't snitching.
The man runs away from the two teenage suspects, the other one shown wearing a coat, a backpack, and khakis, both suspects turning around as the smartphone captures their faces. Metro riders tell us the video is alarming.
It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary, kind of confusing, but scary.
At night, I'm a woman. It just feels less safe.
Metro Transit police say they arrested the two suspects in Maryland for unrelated crimes, and police are working with the Attorney General's office in D.C. to also file charges for the coat robbery. Metro riders are pleased police arrested the suspects. WMATA recently told Fox 5 that they've increased security on trains and at Metro stations.
A video that went viral captures the chaos just the other night as what appears to be teenagers running through the store, one riding a scooter inside, yelling and apparently stealing whatever they want with little or no resistance. These people live in the neighborhood.
Maybe they got to get control over kids that exploit the loophole in the law.
It is chaotic, and there's kids. I've seen kids run out with stuff, and no one stops them.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I don't go there.
D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab calls the behavior in the store unacceptable and disturbing. In February, CVS closed a store in Columbia Heights that was a constant target of thieves. In Southeast, Kyle Cooper, WTOP News.
Video from an employee shows the aftermath. Items scattered everywhere. Police say multiple items were stolen and an employee suffered a minor injury.
We had people in denial saying that we didn't have a problem, even though I brought up the fact that some people had been released who had been locked up 8 times for carjacking. They were juveniles. Now, I'm saying this to say that I don't believe that most juveniles should get locked up for long periods of time. But sometimes you got to save people from themselves, and that's all I was saying. Y'all, they're not just robbing us anymore. Our lives don't matter. Our lives don't matter. So them robbing us doesn't mean anything, but they're robbing the lives. They're robbing people in other places that have power and authority. And if it happens to them, it's going to mean something. And eventually, people are going to take control of our city. Now,
someone else posted.
The goofy Tacoma Park.
Dang, who put
these
that as
people just have nothing to do. They are bored and the city provides nothing for them.
And this is how much they spent.
Youth violence prevention.
$2 million.
5.1 million on.
We ain't talking about charities.
Empowerment.
How much mental health money do you need? I want to hear no one's mama talking about how good their kid was.
So do you think with those 25 teenagers that their parents, like, where do you think their parents are? Do you think all of them have parents that work nights?
No, they at home smack or playing cards.
The parents are home getting cranked.
Yeah.
So you think that most of the parents are just allow the kids to be out of the house with no kind of discipline or restriction?
Yeah, I think they gave up on their kids. There's too much friction at home, and the kids want to be grown.
And she just praying every night that this Bama don't get shot.
And
so you
and this is why Trump gonna pull the sweep down on.
Yeah, bring the National Guard, Navy, Marines, and 300.
How many of those kids do you think smoke weed?
All of them.
Or how many of those kids do you think do any other kind of drug on top of that?
You see Donnell Phillips walking down the sidewalk along U Street Northwest. It's 4:15 in the morning Wednesday. People in an SUV were following him, and as soon as Mr. Phillips got into the crosswalk at 12th Street, the car turned straight at him. He was struck and killed. Police say it appears the people in the car got out, stole his cash, and fled. Phillips had just withdrawn money from an ATM in the 1100 block of U Street Northwest. The suspects were in a stolen white Hyundai Santa Fe that was recovered not long afterward. Donnell Phillips' daughter and granddaughter are speaking out to us today.
It's heartbreaking because it's like, that was cruel. It was cruel. And then like y'all, they just left him there. They just left him there, and of my dad. This is the only thing I can say. Because of my dad, I pray for the person that did it. Instead of wanting revenge, instead of, because y'all took a good man, y'all took a man that stood for a lot of things, that helped out a lot of people and didn't want anything in return.
The suspects are still out here. A reward is being offered for information that leads to their arrest.
Me and the man locked up right now. So, nah, yeah, though. Man, I'm keeping the same energy, though. I don't give a fuck. Chill. I don't give a fuck. If I get let go, I'm doing the same thing again.
And in my humble opinion, I know this might not be very popular, but it's not black. I'm telling you, I hope people do not look at it that, but I know a lot of people do, unfortunately. This is not a color thing. This is a culture thing. It's in most major cities. So if a bunch of niggas stop living in major cities, then they won't have much to do because they be spread out and too thin. It's not a black thing. If the statistics say that a bunch of black people are committing 50% of the most violent crimes, I mean, it's just what else do you want them to do? Is this just ignore it because of color? It's a statistical fact. I don't know. It's parenting. Sorry. But look, us as a community have to wake up anyway. So, I mean, if this is the way it's going to happen, this is what's going to happen. And it's in most major cities. In Chicago, in New York, Liberty City, wherever you go, for some reason, anywhere's Martin Luther King Drive, it's not the best place. We think that because we have some tokenism, we don't have to do anything anymore. And that's not the truth. We need to compartmentalize our attention that, yes, we have thrived and excelled in a multitude of ways, but at the same time, we need a lot of work that still needs to be done. Yeah, put your comments in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Let's talk about it amicably. God bless. Peace.